Web of Conspiracy. Here is your host, Adam Webb.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of the Web of Conspiracy. I am your host, Adam Webb. It is long overdue, but I'm glad to be back with you on this podcast finally. Not sure where to begin here, but this isn't going to be a normal show. I have a lot to explain my disappearance over the last now 8 months. So I'm going to take some time to do that with you today. But nevertheless, the show is going on. It is going to continue. So I will start off just by making that announcement real quick. Secondly, I received a number of emails, messages on social media. I just wanted to thank everybody who took the time to reach out during that time. It was greatly appreciated. Loved getting the support and getting the feedback. So thank you for those who took the time. And once again, I do apologize for a much unanticipated delay. I knew that I was going to have to take some time away from the show. I knew that there were some things going on that were going to force me to do that, but I certainly didn't expect to be 8 months between shows. That was not my intention, and it just sort of just snowballed. So let me begin by explaining initially why I took some time away from the show. First and foremost, there were some family changes. The oldest son was going away to college, and there was a matter of getting him transitioned, getting him set up. That took some time away in terms of actually moving him there. And I needed to take a break. And of course, the family dynamic changed, and there were some things there that required me to be more available and more focused away from the show. So that was the first initial thing there that started back in the fall. And I realized that I kind of maybe needed a little bit of a break too. I'd been kind of spotty, and I think I needed to just step away for a little bit. One of the things about doing a show like this is that you generally, to do it well, to research, and it takes a lot of time. But not only that, but sometimes you really find yourself jumping down the rabbit hole. And I have, on a number of occasions, asked myself, how far down am I jumping into? What is, you begin to really do a lot of deep questioning. So I think it's important that for me at that time, I also needed to take some time away, kind of re-energize and regather my focus. So that was the other thing. Let me make it very clear that one of the things that many people reached out to me about was whether or not my cancer had returned. I know, for those of you who listened for a long time, know that I was diagnosed with melanoma in late August of 2013. I've had a number of surgeries, and fortunately, so far, so good on that front. Everything was taken care of, and all was well there. That being said, I did contract a rather nasty upper respiratory infection that knocked me out for basically a month. I had every intention of starting the show back in January, and was not able to do that in part because of that infection. For a solid month, I wound up on all kinds of medicines. I finally had to seek medical attention because I just couldn't shake it. So that set me back for quite a bit as well. And another issue that I really don't want to get into great amount of detail at this time, that being said, I will when I can, was that in August, I received some information from a government agency that essentially is, I'm being very careful with my words here. I am dealing with a particular government agency that is making my life a little difficult right now. And I've been seeking some help in this matter, of which all the professionals are kind of scratching their heads wondering why this particular agency isn't letting go of what they're trying to pursue with me. It's nothing illegal, nothing like that. Nevertheless, it is an issue that I've been having to deal with, and my initial thoughts were that perhaps and this may still be the case, that I was being targeted for something that I had said on my podcast. Now, I realized and recognized that I don't have the reach of, say, something like a Coast to Coast or something along those lines. But nevertheless, I made some comments about a particular agency on a couple occasions on the show. And this individual whom I'm working with doesn't know what I do, doesn't know that I do this, because I do keep this pretty quiet that I do this for the most part. My family knows and a couple friends, but that's really about it. I don't let a whole lot of people know that this is something that I do on the side. That being said, this individual didn't know and said it's so strange because it's almost as if though you're being targeted. So that being said, I don't want to go into a great lot of detail about this particular issue, but once it is resolved, and my hope is that it is resolved, I will be able to take some time to discuss this. I know that for those of you who are the conspiracy fans know that there are a couple government agencies that do tend to target individuals for one reason or another. And it would seem at this moment, based on some individuals that I spoke to, that might very well be the case in my situation. So yes, I'm being very careful with my words, and I don't want to go into a great amount of detail about that particular issue. But my hope was that in laying low, taking some time away, not doing some podcasts, that perhaps the agency would be of the belief that what I'm doing has stopped, and that they would no longer pursue what they have been pursuing with me. Nevertheless, I don't feel that that's going to happen. So I've decided to ignore that and bring the show back and start more or less back in fairly regular production of the podcast. So yes, there was a little bit of a pressure there to kind of lay low. So I felt that, well, with this and with all the other issues going on, taking some time away would be a good thing. So that being said, nothing has changed. So I figured I'm done. I'm going to go back to doing what I do. I'm going to talk about some of these issues. And when I can talk about my individual situation, I will certainly go into greater detail. Those of you who are of the conspiracy ilk most likely were able to read between the lines of what I'm dealing with. That being said, I'll delve into it when I can. So once again, I want to thank all of you who have reached out. For all of you who continue to support the show, I have to tell you that I was really surprised, because every now and again I would log in and look to see it, listener statistics, and lots of people are still listening to the show. Not only that, but a lot of new listeners. So those of you who are new that I haven't released a podcast in a while, welcome to the show. Thank you for your support, and I hope to be able to continue this. One other final note, and this sort of had delayed me as of recently, is that I've relocated. Most of you have been listening to the show know that I've been in Ohio. I am no longer in Ohio. I am in New Mexico now. As longtime listeners will know, I came out here about 2.5 to 3 years ago now, and did a live show out here and really fell in love with New Mexico. I realize that it's not for everybody, but I just fell in love with this place. Beautiful landscapes, amazing place, absolutely gorgeous, and had an opportunity to relocate here, and so far it's been great. So that being said, I'm now in a new office, so hopefully the sound quality is at least as good, perhaps maybe better. Something I'm going to continue to tweak and continue to work on. So I would certainly welcome your feedback there, but new studio, and kind of a new start here. This in many ways feels like a new show for me after the amount of time that I've been away. In that time, there has been a number of things that have gone on that, that if I were doing a show, I would have loved to discuss in greater detail. So I'm going to try to, in the future as we go, discuss some of those things. I know even in the news today, there's a story circulating about a UFO that was spotted over Vladimir Putin's residence in St. Petersburg. Interesting, leading many to speculate that perhaps he is in some sort of contact with extraterrestrials. Obviously, I'm a little skeptical of that, but Maybe. Who knows? Nevertheless, there's a lot of interesting stories out there, and some of which I think can be debunked. Some perhaps are a little more significant than others. And certainly a number of conspiracies that I would love to be able to get into a little bit more as well. I know that there are some conspiracies over Supreme Court Justice Scalia's death. So I will certainly delve into some of these issues that have happened over the last 8 months that I haven't really, haven't spoken with anybody about yet. So also, I intend to revisit some topics from some of the older shows I've done. Now, I think I've done something along the lines of 52 shows. And in those 52 shows, I've touched on a number of subjects. Some of those topics, of course, are variations of and whatnot. But I'm going to go back, I think, on a few, especially with some new information, and revisit some of those topics. Some of those that were shows I absolutely love doing, and want to get back to touching on some of those. And then, of course, expanding into some other things. And one topic that I intend to do, and hopefully we'll have an episode out, a podcast out next week, will be on the subject of the flat earth theory. And that flat earth theory, it really surprised me that it seemed like it's making a bit of the rounds right now. Of course, there's a few celebrities that are out there tweeting about it in the Twitterverse and whatnot. So it seems to be gathering a little bit of steam. And there's the part of me that, the rational part of me that was taught that the world is round and makes me scratch my head as to how is this theory gaining momentum. So I'm going to delve into that topic and figure out and try to see what is there to this theory. Maybe there is something legitimate to it. And I'm sure that a few of you who listen to the podcast are most likely proponents of this theory, I'd have to imagine, because it is gaining steam, and it is gaining steam in the conspiracy realm. So I intend on doing a show on the flat earth theory here rather soon. But yes, I'm going to go back, visit some old stuff again that I loved, and try to also bring in some newer things that like I said, have kind of blown up during the time that I've been away. So once again, this isn't intended to be a traditional show here. I just really wanted to take the time to reach out to everybody, and thank you for continuing to support the show, and for those of you who reached out and expressed your concern and hopes for my well-being. And as I said, I also do apologize for the amount of time away. It was never intended to be this long. I felt like I was going to be able to resolve some of the things that I needed to resolve, and then that didn't happen, and then I had this horrible upper respiratory infection that just sidelined me, and it just seemed like every time I wanted to get back into the swing of things, I kept getting setbacks. And so I decided that this week I wanted to at least get a show out there to everybody and explain why I was away, what's going on, and where the show's going from here. It will continue, it will go on, and I will have some new content next week, barring any other setbacks. Anymore, that is going to be my new standard, barring any setbacks. Fortunately, I was able to get the office put together fairly quickly and try to get at least this podcast out there for everybody this week. I haven't even been in the new home for a week. So I've got some tweaking I've got to do in the studio and the office here, and I'm going to continue to try to improve and look for ways to make the show better as well. And for those of you who are new listeners, who maybe have been perhaps binging on some of the old podcasts and listening to a number of them, I do welcome your feedback on show suggestions, topics, that kind of thing. Every now and again, I've gotten some really good show suggestions from listeners who, I completely support getting that kind of feedback, because ultimately, while I do this show out of my own interest and my own experiences that I haven't been able to completely explain, I love being able to take the show and find new things that I've never even heard of, and things that I didn't even realize were going on out there. So for those of you who are new to the show, please, I welcome your feedback. Let me know. Let me add one caveat: constructive feedback. Because if you got some nasty garbage to say, I really don't want to hear that. You could be critical of some things, that's fine. But if you're going to basically trash me, whatever, I don't need to hear that. You just turn off the podcast and go listen to somebody else. I don't need that in my life right now. That is for sure. So that being said, once again, thank you to everybody who continue to support the show, and my apologies for my delay. And I will be back with you again next week.